had some great feedback from a lot of you about the video that we did on Learn Helplessness. I wanted to follow it up with a story. I had a client several years ago who walked in my office, and a brilliant man sat down in my office and said, "Last night my wife asked to borrow $2,500 from me so that she could divorce me and that she could take my house and she could take my children." So I respectfully repeated back to him, "So what you're telling me is that your wife last night asked to borrow $2,500 from you so she could divorce you," obviously she was paying for her attorney, "so she could take your house and she could take your children." And he said yes. And so obnoxiously I repeated that back to him several times, to the point where I noticed that he started to become irritated. And he looked at me in that moment and had an epiphany. He went, and he looked at me and he basically said, "Oh my God." And I looked at him and I said, "You gave her the money, didn't you?" And he looked back at me and he said, "Yes." "Why did I do that?" And we began to explore the whole concept of Learn Helplessness. Now, the cool thing about that story is the man started a school, actually, and the primary curriculum was on overcoming learned helplessness. So that's kind of the neat ending of that story. But he then came back the next session and asked me, what do I need to do about learned helplessness? What do I do? And so what we started talking about is several very specific examples. So in one sense, I can't, in this, give you specifics as to what you should do. But the biggest thing I said to him is, you've got to choose circumstance, a situation where you stand up for yourself, whether that's a letter, whether that's a phone call, whether that's sending your food back when they didn't cook it right at the restaurant, or whether that's write a letter to your abuser. Stand up for yourself. In some way, shape, or form, you've either got to do it one of two ways. You either do small incremental steps towards standing up. I call it self-advocacy. I'm sure I've stole that term from somebody. But self-advocacy, where you're standing up for yourself, maybe in little ways, or you do something significant, something large, something that you've known for years. I really need to do this and stand up for myself. And I would say, do it. You have to do it. Learned helplessness does not go away by talking about it, understanding it, studying it. It happens by taking either small or very large steps towards self-advocacy.